I'm not going to talk as much as I did the last time, because I'll be boring you with the same stuff. What I will talk about is anything that's kind of different from last time. A number of the techniques might be a little bit different.
You've got to talk just the same because some of us weren't here last time.
Oh, right, okay. But you can hear it online, and I don't need to say things twice. Right, I do like to just explain my plan of action before I start. So I'll do that. I'm just pouring out my medium, which today, and I say today because it's not the way I operate every time, is a mixture of sort of wax medium that I use from Michael Harding, and also a quick drying medium from Rubens, and also some balsam turpentine. Yes, 3 ingredients, 1 medium, and you can kind of guess why I do that. I suppose I like it to dry quick. I don't ever just use turpentine. I'm going to attempt alla prima today. However, I did have an alla prima painting that was too big to get in the car with this as well and all my stuff. So I was going to kind of give you an idea of what I'm doing. The development of work in the recent sort of weeks has been just a lot quicker painting, a lot quicker and bigger and bolder, and I'm just I'm cutting down the amount of different layers at times, but it's a bit of a departure a little bit, just because it's quite, I'm trying to embrace the brush stroke, the large brush stroke, all the time, trying to, as I always have, but it's almost like I'm taking it to the next level of expression, if you like. So, brushes, where are they? There they are. I'm going to be kicking off. I pretty much use 3 types of brushes, and possibly only will use 3 brushes. All F brushes. The filbert. Where's my filbert? I'll probably just go for the biggie filbert. Filbert, fan, and this effing big brush here. So F brushes I like. So I'll just get started. I think I'm prepared. You might have seen me messing about with some paint before I started, so I'll just explain the palette. A very wee one for coming here. I have been using this one in the studio just because I like to pick it up and put it down, but I've also got a studio palette that will sit here in my studio, and I'll reach in, I can get much more colour on it and things like that. Cardboard palette, yeah, high tech. It's basically because I love playing with the consistency of oil paint. I like to think about a painting to celebrate the thing that it was made from. Watercolours, I love the wet and wet technique. It describes what watercolour does. A watercolour all dry on dry, I find isn't as interesting as looking and seeing what this watercolour does when it goes onto a piece of watercolour paper. Pastels, how pastels work with the surface. And I've kind of begun to think that it's not an image I'm trying to create out of paint. The paint is the image. You want to enjoy the paint. So I get involved with the different consistencies, and any good painting and any good story and any good piece of music needs conflict within the themes, the conflict of one thing against another. So that brings me to the quote that's very important for me from Matisse, which is, I don't paint things, I paint the difference between things. So I'm constantly referring to thin paint versus thick, gungy paint versus very finely finished. And if you have finely finished paint next to gungy thick paint, it makes a better statement. If you cover the whole thing with gungy thick paint, you're just going to bore the viewer senses. And we don't want to bore people, especially when we're painting to an audience. So that's the story with this, is that some of the oil is currently leaving that oil paint, and it's thickening up to give you that real textural stuff. You'll notice there's only 3 colours there. They are the primary colours, regardless of what you were taught in school and at art school, if some of you were there. They are CMY, and they stand for cyan, magenta, yellow. If you've seen my YouTube videos about colour that someone mentioned, you might have seen the truth about the colour wheel, and I promote that online. And I make reference, I'm not promoting just using primary colours. I've got loads of colours here, and I'm not saying everyone should use these colours, but everyone should understand that when you use a colour wheel, you need to know how to get a blue. You need to know that you can mix blue. You need to know that you can mix red. And it's not necessarily about using pure primaries like this. I use them because it's a theme of my work, is exposing the primary colours. And every paint that you'll see of mine will have cyan, it will have magenta, and it will have yellow. Fairly noticeably within the painting you'll see that. And a lot of the colours will be mixed. And I'll pretty much make a comment on the fact that the blues here are not, I don't use ultramarine blue, but I mix blue with cyan magenta, or cyan and purple. What's the purple that I use? There's a great purple that I use a lot. I mix a lot of blues with. Windsor violet, but that's not the one I'm thinking of. There's also dioxazine violet. So Windsor violet's the artist's quality paint. A little thing about artist quality paint, I use all artist quality paint except for the big thick gungy bits of paint that I use that I bulk up with some of your regular products. Because what I do anyway with it is that I put filler into the paint to bulk it up and and quicken the drying time of it, and that's called Lucas in pastel medium. So Lucas in pastel medium and wax medium are in these, because Lucas in pastel medium glossifies the paint, if that's a word, makes it glossy, and this paste stuff is like cold wax medium, basically. It's called beeswax paste from Michael Hardy. So there you go, I'm going to start painting. Concept. No, I'm going to tell you about concept first.
Excuse me, can I just ask a question? Did you say you put your paint deliberately on cardboard?
Yeah.
To suit some of the oil?
Yeah.
To make it
Yeah. So it takes, you got to watch that you don't leave it there too long.
Yeah.
It'll be all right, because of the amount of paint I've put in that. It will be all right. I've spread it out fairly thin, but not too thin. The thinner you spread it, the quicker you're going to have to pick it up. Any absorbent surface will do the same thing. If you ever sort of squeeze out the paint, it normally happens, it doesn't really tend to happen with your non-artist colours, but if you squeeze out non-artist colours, they're fine because they're full of filler, but artist paints are all killer, no filler, as I call them, and they can sometimes have a lot of oil that kind of comes out, and then it drips down your palette, and you go, oh my god, and you've got to pick up the paper towels and things, clean it up. And that can sort out that as well. If you want, you can just get rid of that excess paint and then scrape it up immediately. And I don't take the oil out all the paints. Some of the stuff that was already on here has had that done to it and then scraped off and put on the palette, but I don't tend to do it with, I certainly don't do it in glazes or any thin paint application. Concept is, this time, a little bit, it might have been a bit too confident here, but there's almost no real concepts no real photographic reference to some things that I paint. I do have a photographic reference here that I'm going to possibly use or possibly not. And it's Harris, the Isle of Harris. Anyone been? It's brilliant. And it should be straight up here. So, there's some images of Harris. I don't know why I'm putting it under that. And I had one specific one.
Behind you, Ken.
Oh, sorry. I had one. Yeah, this specific one I am going to use, but I'm going to use a combination of a few things. It's not going to. Sometimes a paint direct is going to be that, exact scene. But I'm not all about, painting that place as it is, as it exists, as a photographer could record it. I want to get an essence of the place. So when I think about Harris, I want to be thinking in my mind, what makes Harris? What makes Harris for me is the big hills, and the big dramatic hills that hit the colour of the sea, and the colour of the sea versus the hills, and it's all angular kind of hills. So this one particular here, I like the beach bay and I might use that, but it's got no great interest to the hills, and it doesn't, for me, say Harris. Okay, I'm going to follow the way the paint wants to go. So the photograph I always call a ball and chain, and no one likes a ball and chain. I'm just going to cover the medium over the canvas. In a fairly uneven kind of way, which is good. I always start putting medium on canvas first because I like slipping and sliding the paint about the place. It's not for the faint-hearted, and it's not for the people that aren't quite careful with making one colour mix into the wrong one and it's all a muddy mess. But it really ensures that you get transparency in those first layers. I love the idea of getting transparency in the darks and thicks with the lights. And sometimes I like to kind of mix that about a bit. That'll do. Break the white. I'm going to have some reflection in here. That'll do. And I'm going to complement that with its complement, which many of you will say is, well, because it's quite an orangey red, it could go down here, but it's an orangey red, an orangey yellow. But I'm going to... I saw this sky recently, which had this golden sunset, and it had just a stripe of this really bright gold, and then it just shifted into these mauvey sort of purples through into magentas and things like that. And I keep thinking back to that at the moment. So a lot of the time it isn't what one thing specifically inspired you. You can be looking at an image of that and being inspired by something else. And the more things that you let inspire you when you work, the better. So I'm going into this Kremnitz white. Kremnitz white. Don't eat it. I'm staying with this huge big brush. And I'm going to mix it with a little bit of blue to blue, this way a little bit. Did that before I'm determined to do that. So, what's that then? There's going to be a dark hill coming from this side, and I'm going to want to sweep someone across into the ocean, sweep them away. I don't want the kind of more obvious thing of this heavy cloud. All my work, by the way, is about heavy cloud changing into brightness. So the moment of transition between doomsday and light from darkness, hope and optimism. So I think we're going to go here with it. And right about now, I think I'm going to dig into my